Production.
Yo, what's poppin', guys? Happy Sunday. Hope you guys have a great start to this week. We're going to go over the Ncbtrades crypto ETF. Obviously, I didn't make this ETF. It's not real. It's just a watch list I've created of crypto-related stocks. They're either miners or exchanges for the most part. Excuse me. So we're going to get right into it, right? We're going to start off with Wndr. So this is what we're looking at, right? We had massive volume coming into the stock the past 4 or 5 weeks. We're going to zoom into the 2-day time frame, right? Most importantly, this has been downtrending since November 2021. So one full entire year of downtrending, okay? After that, the beginning of this year, going into late December, we have a massive ramp creating a new higher high here, right? So what we could potentially be looking for is a new change of trend. Now, in order for that to be verified, we need this higher low in this range to hold out. We do not want to break below this low, because if we do, this setup would be negated and it wouldn't be considered a higher low. We'd be then breaking down to new lows. So what we want to see is a higher low be created. Let's look at the daily time frame here. I think it's important to note this gap down, right? Let's mark out the levels of this gap down. So we closed at 26 cents on the 23rd of January, right? And then the next day we opened up, it was 20 cents. So it dropped down 6 cents, right? Now the highs of this gap here is 21 cents. So this is clearly a zone where there's supply now, right? So what do we know about this gap down? There was a $5 million acquisition with some company, and they have a bunch of shares at 22 cents. And they also have warrants, which are otherwise known as options, at around 30 cents, I believe. So if that company is entitled to shares at 22 cents, that could have created the massive drop down in price. So now this is what's going to happen. It's going to create a lot of fear. People are going to be scared shitless. I've already had a bunch of people DMing and commenting on some of my videos that this is a scam or whatever. I'm going to let this play out. We could, like I said in one of the very first breakdown videos, just need a little bit more time to have this fizzle out, right? So we create a higher low and then it might slowly do something like this. When or if this is going to happen is no guarantee. So if you are investing in this and you're watching my videos and you're getting excited, please manage your risk correctly, right? Only invest what you can afford to lose. So that is basically what I'm looking for here. Eventually, when we break once the demand overweighs the supply in this 21 cent range, that's going to give us the ability to break up above this 21 cent zone, trying to fill this gap here. That would be pretty interesting to see, right? So there are many different trade ideas that could come of this, right? But depending on what the crypto space does and Bitcoin does and the regular markets do, we will essentially be watching to see if we're going to fill this gap or are we going to reject and try to make and establish a higher low in this range here. So I got 16 cents marked out. That's kind of like the lowest I think we could potentially go because of our support that has been marked out since November. So that was a little bit of a deep detail here on Wndr. So we're going to move on to Glxy. Massive falling wedge. We're going to zoom out to the weekly time frame. We have bullish divergence on the weekly time frame. The falling wedge over this period of time could be considered as a continuation pattern, but there is no guarantee yet, right? So we still haven't technically broken out of this falling wedge, right? If we're looking at it from a line chart perspective, we're still struggling to break out of this zone. But good news is we're creating this bull flag pattern. The bull flag pattern is a continuation pattern, right? So we might need just a little bit more time going sideways in this area before we get that push to the upside. $5 seems to be such a pretty strong zone, right? If we're looking at this time frame here, every time we've come back down to the $5 range, it's been bought up. So it looks like that's a zone that is fairly respected on Glxy. Again, this one is probably one of the stronger names out of all the crypto-related stocks. But I would be paying attention to this on a weekly time frame. If we do reject this upper trend line, where are we going to be looking? We're going to look at previous resistance, right? Because we want previous resistance to act as support, and that would be right around this $4.45 range. So if you're really, really thinking about it, right, and you're worried, like, oh man, where's this going to potentially go? This is what I'd be looking for here, right? You're either going to want to get in around this area and you're risking around 20% for a massive potential gain, because this, I think, will go a lot further than $8 in the long term. Or you could look at it from, if we go down to that area, you can now risk way less, maybe a 10% for an even larger return. Right? So those are just two different trading ideas to throw out in there when we're looking at Glxy and you're trying to come up with a trade. Here we have Hive, right? We come flying right up into this resistance zone, right? It happens fairly quickly. We might need more time to develop a base in this area, right? So we're at $5 right now. This zone from $5 to $3.88, we could zoom that up, maybe $4, right? This area could need to be developed as some sort of a base before we continue to the upside. So these are some ideas that I'm just playing with in my head to be prepared. You want to be prepared from all perspectives. You can't just be blindly bullish, and you don't want to be blindly bearish. You want to have a pretty decent even keel in between both of them, so you could look at the markets from an objective perspective. Here we have Defi. This one's probably one of the weakest ones out of this zone, despite I love the chart because it provided many gains. But at the same time, I got to be completely honest right now that this chart is looking kind of deadly. We're not seeing massive bouts of bull volume. We're in fact seeing massive bouts of bear volume. So this one I'm going to keep on the watch list, but I'd be wary and kind of steer away from this one. Hut. Here on Hut, we've got potential tweezer tops showing up here, right? So again, we come flying right up into this resistance zone, right? It's going to take some time to break this down for sure. So what we could be looking at here is maybe an inverse head and shoulder setup, where we've got the left shoulder, we've got the head, and maybe we need some more time here to develop a right shoulder. That could be in the form of back testing this trend line or back testing this resistance or support level at around $2.40. But before we can break this up, we want to see that develop. So it might take a few months, like let this shit play out, right? I'm thinking maybe late March, early April, we'll see the real truth of if this market's ready to turn up or if we're going to continue sideways for a longer period of time. We have Mara here. This trend line's holding us back big time. But again, along with all of this crypto, how would I put it? All this fear in the crypto market. These names are worth watching because when they go, they go. And as you can see from the lows here, Mara went up 175%. We're talking about gains that people wish they could have. So by paying attention to these every day and following trading plans, I think it could provide some serious opportunity here, right? So this is Coinbase, massive bull volume coming in. We came flying right up into this resistance zone. Wild how fast this shit happens if you're not paying attention. Again, right? Potential inverse head and shoulders setting up, right? We have this falling wedge developing, but inside the falling wedge, we've got this left shoulder, we've got this head here, and now what we're looking for, right? Maybe we need a back test of this zone. This could just be big money coming in for a longer term positional investment. but what we're looking for is a base to develop here, right? We need to develop some demand in this area and eat up more shares in this area before we can rocket up into this zone. Again, lots of resistance up in this level too, around 111. So if you're thinking long term about any of these names, especially before the BTC halving and the long term outlook in crypto space, accumulating over a longer period of time via dollar cost averaging could be a great idea for you, right? Here we have tokens.com. This one ramped up heavy. We broke bear out of this bear flag here. I would be wary of this one just because I don't really know too much about it. The chart is telling, right? We get a ramp because all the other ones went up too, right? Rising tide lifts all boats. This one happens to be one of the weaker boats because it's rejecting the bull flag. It's already down 30% from that move, right, into that resistance area. Tokens.com, one that I'm not too strong about, right? We have Bitfarms here. This one's a big miner. Look at all the bull volume coming in. This one's worth paying attention to. I'd be watching these zones, right? Maybe we come back and test the $1 range. Maybe we come back and test 120. Either way, a bull flag is shaping up here. We have this push. Now we've gone sideways. Once we start to go sideways a little bit longer than this pole, then I would maybe consider it not being a bull flag. But if we're looking at the weekly perspective, it is looking pretty interesting. I would keep an eye on this one too, right? This sideways trading after a long push. Maybe we just need the 8 EMA to do its thing. If we could hold that 8 EMA on the weekly time frame, I think the opportunity here is massive on this name. SI. This one had a lot to do with FTX. Maybe it's not going to go away. I don't know too much about it, but this one I'm kind of going to steer away from. Again, massive potential opportunity. If you're looking for a trade, manage your risk wisely. It looks like we're starting to regain the 8 EMA on the 2-day and the daily. 3-day, we've got above it, and we're not quite above it on the weekly. But if we do cross above this on the weekly time frame, maybe it might be worth getting into in terms of catching a trade to maybe touch that upper trend line around $34, $40 range, potentially 50 if this thing really gets moving. CleanSpark looks pretty interesting. Again, look, all of these have big spikes in bull volume coming in the past few weeks. I like the weekly time frame the most, to be honest. Weekly time frame, what we're looking for is we want to see, are we going to come back up? We're already at this resistance zone of around $4 and we're rejecting slightly. So as you can see, we come right up into this range. The 8 EMA, we want to maybe go sideways, follow the 8 EMA a little bit before we get that push. The next resistance level I'd be looking for is around $5, right up in this zone here. So it's important you point these out, and now these are targets we could look for if you're trying to make a trade idea. Again, I think $5 in retrospect to where it could potentially go is kind of small-minded here. Another tool that you could use, right? We could use the Fibonacci retracement tool from the very high to the very bottom. Where's the mean? The 0.382 here. You could be a little bit more generous and think maybe $13 if you're looking for a long-term positional swing if you have conviction in the trade. That would be a excuse me, 300% trade from the lows, right? That's why this is why I like crypto. It pays to have conviction in names. Despite what the charts are looking at, like, if you have conviction that the long-term outlook is going to be bullish, some of these names can pay off extremely well. As you can see, 3 to 4x opportunities. Here we have Hold. This one, man, I don't know what's going on. It's taking its sweet time developing in this zone, but man, could this potentially be a nasty play. I want to keep my eyes on this one. We have a massive spike in bull volume here, and we've continued sideways. It might just take a little bit longer for this one to really get going. But I think that when it does get going, we're going to look at something like this. Like, what the heck, man? That's what's going to happen. We're going to be like, pow, one big green candlestick. It's right now currently at 28 cents, developing in this range sideways since October. Just to get up into the previous zone here, it's around a 100% trade. So there is potential opportunity. Again, you want to pay attention to these names. If you start to see an increase in bull volume, that could be your signal to jump in the trade. Now, when we're looking at 2 hour, 4 hour, it was pretty much the 1 day of massive bull volume. But we want to see, right, the daily, it's holding the 8 EMA, 2 day, just starting, 3 day, just starting, the weekly, not quite yet there. But essentially what we're looking for, right, the 8 EMA and the 21 converging together, that's kind of bullish. We like that. We want to see a bullish cross. Slowly could be happening on the 2 day. But essentially, there's some signs of this potentially making a move to the upside. So again, like all these names, they're very much so worth paying attention to. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was a longer one. If you made it all the way to the end, shout out to you. You're an absolute beauty. Easy.